This is the Know Your Law series by Barefoot Law, a non-profit organization which uses digital innovation and technology to provide free legal information and guidance for all. For more information, visit www.barefootlaw.org. Hello, welcome back to this episode of the Know Your Law series. In the Know Your Law series, we answer every question that you have related to the law. In this particular edition, we are going to be answering questions on contracts. What is a contract? You know, for many of you, when you receive your contracts, the first thing that you do is just flip to the page that talks about the money. How much am I receiving? Oh, that much. Okay, fine. And then you sign the contract. But what have you really signed to? Do you know that? So today we shall be answering all the questions that you asked us on contracts. And trust me, they are many. So let's get right into it. My name is Trudy, and I'll be speaking to Irene Wabule, one of the lawyers from Barefoot Law. So, Irene, welcome.
Thank you, Trudy.
We'd like to know, is there a difference between a contract and an agreement?
Thank you, Trudy, for the question. Like Trudy mentioned, my name is Irene. I'm one of the lawyers at Barefoot Law. And yes, back to the question, there is surely a difference between a contract and an agreement. A contract is a written or spoken understanding between two or more parties involved, creating legally binding obligations. Yes. On the other hand, an agreement is a mutual understanding between two or more parties to do something or not to do something, with each having rights and obligations.
So Irene, I've heard people throw around the term MOU. What is an MOU? Is it the same as a contract? Is it the same thing? Is there a difference?
An MOU is different from a contract.
Okay.
Yes, memorandum of understanding. That is what an MOU means in full. So it's basically a document that it contains the terms and details of a mutual understanding between parties. This like having what is required of each party to do. So it basically states the intent of parties to do a certain thing for a common goal. Yes. And like I mentioned, and it's by the an example of an agreement. And like I mentioned before, a contract is basically a written or spoken understanding between two or more parties with the intention to create a legally binding agreement. So in this case, a contract is enforceable by the law. An MOU is not. However, when the party is at fault, the party that is not at fault can apply for arbitration. Yes.
Okay. So if you and I, for example, right now, if I say that if you wanted my bracelet, let's use my bracelet, and I say that I'll give it to you next week. Are you legally bound to come and tell me, you told me last week? I have. So generally what I'm asking is, if a contract is not written down, is it a contract? Or if an agreement, whatever it is, if it's not written down, is it a contract?
If it's not, it's still an agreement if it's not written down. Some agreements or some contracts are written down and others are just in verbal form. So, however, there are some contracts that are required by the law to be should be written. We have employment contracts, they should be in writing. And also contracts of above 200,000 shillings should also be under writing. So the party at fault here will be punished by a fine under the law.
So I can remain with my bracelet after a while.
Please.
So, Irene, I'm curious, can married people enter in a contract between themselves?
Sure, yes, they can. Married people can enter into a contract as long as the terms are clear. Like the intention must be clear that the married people are willing to enter into a contract, because it's a tricky thing to enforce. Yes. So the intention must be clear. For example, probably to do certain work, your husband can ask you to do something, but then you put it in writing and enter into a contract. So that failure to perform, if any of the parties fails to perform, then it can be enforced by the law. Let me give you an example. My grandfather is a lawyer, and so he asked my grandmom to stop teaching. She's a teacher. She was a teacher. She's retired. So she asked her to stop teaching and sit at home. And they entered into an agreement that he would be paying her every month. Yes, but he should stop teaching. And yes, indeed, my grandfather honored that agreement. He used to pay her until the time when she retired. Yes.
But I guess she also agreed.
Yes,
to
she
stay
agreed.
home.
Of course, you cannot be
Okay.
forced. Remember, you cannot force someone to enter into an agreement.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. And then this question, don't laugh at me, I'm just going to ask it. Two thieves. Can two thieves enter a contract with each other? Like now what's going on in the world right now? In Soweto, we've been seeing how things are being looted. If I go and loot, can I come into a contract with my fellow thief and say, if we steal this and that, this is what I'll take, the other is what you'll take? Is it agreed? What if they disagree? I mean, is it allowed in that case to have a contract?
That's a very funny question, but very important. Yes, because it can easily happen out there. So, two thieves entering into a contract to share proceeds is illegal. Yes, the law cannot enforce something that is illegal. We all know that theft is a crime under the law, punishable under the law. So there's nothing that they can share. They cannot enter into such an agreement because it is illegal under the law.
Okay.
Yes.
So Irene, I'm very curious. Are there contracts that we are not allowed to get into, even if they are legal contracts? I don't know if you understand my question.
Yes, I do understand your question. Yes, such contracts are there. You find that there are certain contracts where the courts of law will not enforce them just because they are against the welfare, interest, or morals of a given society. For example, contracts that go against public policy. Let me try to give you an example of mining. Like you and I cannot enter into a contract to go and mine in a given area because mining is supposed to be done by the government. They hold such resources on our behalf, we as Ugandans. So it's only the government that is in charge.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that makes so much sense. And then I'm curious, if I entered in a contract with somebody, but I can no longer do the things that I wanted to do for them, or the contract stipulated that I should do with them, can I sell it to another person that I know can do the same job well, and then they either give me some money or, is it possible to sell a contract?
Yeah, it is possible to sell a contract, but not this. I'm reluctant to use the word sell. I would like to use the word transfer. Yes. So, of course, a contract creates the rights and responsibilities or obligations. So, such rights and responsibilities can be transferred to someone else, what is legally known as assignment under the law. Yes. So, however, you cannot transfer unless the contract provides or allows you to transfer, because it must be stipulated clearly under the contract that the party that is willing to transfer the rights and obligations is at liberty to do so. So, if the contract allows you to do so, you are at liberty to transfer, but you must also communicate to your other party because it is entered into between two or more people. So you must inform the other party of your intentions.
Okay.
Yes.
That question then brings another question. If, let me say, a friend or a relative of mine is into a contract, but then it's something that I can help them do, can I join that contract?
You cannot, because a contract in this case is between two or more people who have agreed. So for you, you'll be referred to as a third party. Third party, you're privy to this contract. You are not part of the contract unless it is amended. Unless your relative or your friend that you want to help and join can inform the other party and they amend accordingly. Yes.
You talked about the contracts being I have to amend and all in the past question. I would also like to know an employment contract. Can I sell that one? Okay, not sell as you said. Can I assign an employment contract?
Of course, an employment contract is basically an agreement between, let's say, for example, I'm an employer and you're an employee. So it's basically between you and me to provide a particular service. Yes. So it is hard to transfer unless you talk to your boss, to me. And if I'm able to agree to your suggestion or to your intentions, then well and good. Because now it will have to change. It is an employment contract. It has my name. It has my signature, you know. So it kind of becomes tricky. But if you're willing, if I'm willing as your employer and you've come to talk to me with a suggestion, then we can enter into a new contract with your friend that you're trying to bring on board. And then you leave.
Okay. Thank you very much for those answers, Irene. Should you want more information on the law, please subscribe to our channel, reach us on any of our platforms, and we shall be able to answer all your questions. Thank you very much. See you next time.